together the Housing Authority. So do we need to do H1, 1, and CSA 1 as well, Madam Clerk?
We did that.
I know, I was just making sure.
Oh, yes,
Because
yes.
it's listed. Okay. Now, Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to consider the Inglewood Housing Authority 5-year and 1-year agency plan.
Has the notice of the hearing been given in the time, form, and manner as required by law? And do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
Have any communications received on the matter?
No communications.
Is there a staff report, Mr. Fields?
Yes, Mr. Roberto Chavez will give the staff report. He's our HUD manager.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Housing Authority Board. Thank you for your time and attention. Today, the item before you is a public hearing for the Housing Authority's 5-year and 1-year annual agency plan. If you'll recall, earlier this month, we set the public hearing, and today we're here to conduct the public hearing to consider the 5-year agency plan from 2020 to 2025 and the 1-year annual plan from 2020 to 2021. The second item on the agenda is adopt the resolution to approve the agency plan and authorize the chairman to execute the required certification forms for submission to the Office of Housing and Urban Development. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay. Are there any persons present who wish to address the city council on this? Are there any persons online, on the phone line, that wish to address the council on this matter? Operator?
Once again, dialing #2 will indicate that you wish to make a comment. And there are no callers in the queue.
All right.
Move on.
Go ahead.
Move items 2 and 3.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Housing Authority members,
Aye.
Dodson.
Gee, he just said aye. He jumped you, you know. You need your eye again.
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. Consent calendar, items 2 and 3.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR1.
Staff report representing the proposed annual budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021.
We have a presentation, Mr. Fields.
Yes, we do have one. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I'll be giving the presentation, the first part of the presentation, and Ms. Kiana Buchanan will be giving the second part of the presentation and going into a little bit more detail. As noted in your budget document, our total budget for this year is $288,692,178. My presentation today will focus on the general fund portion of the budget document.
Let's see. Yeah. Later that same day.
There we go. There we go. So revenues for the general fund budget are $129,100,432. Expenditures are $138,892,651, which brings us to a projected deficit of $9,792,219. Now I would like to go over some of the significant cost impacts for our general fund budget. Salary and benefits are $94,849,942. The decrease in this amount is due to the freezing of 30 general fund positions, which I believe the council all have a copy of the memo that describes those in details. The CalPERS costs, retirement costs, have decreased due to the refinancing of our pension obligation bonds. We saved about $8 million. Sorry about that. We saved about $8 million as a result of our pension obligation bond refinance. The LA County Fire Department has increased their costs have gone up 5.40%, and that's due to the cost of living increases that the county gave their firefighters in their MOU this year, or projecting for next fiscal year. Our healthcare costs have increased, and that is due to the that's due to the claims history that's based on, both retirees and active employees.
Let me ask you a real question before we leave this slide.
Right, yeah.
Now, when you talked about the PERS payments.
Right, yeah.
The refinancing of the 7% debt to 3% debt
Right.
that was criticized by the treasurer,
Right.
and she noted Senator Morlock was her backup. That saved us $8 million and didn't increase our debt one penny. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Members,
Good afternoon, Mr. Buchanan.
attending members. I will continue from where I already left off in relation to the detailed information regarding our 2021 budget, mostly speaking to the overall in the general fund. So I'll begin with providing you some revenue summary information to give you the outlook of our revenue summaries. This particular slide provides the citywide revenues projected at $272,128,489. This slide provides a snapshot of the citywide revenues by fund, grouped by category, percentage, and amount. As you can see, the general fund makes up almost half of the total at $129,100,432, or 47% of the citywide budget is allocated to the general fund. There are also other funds listed here, as you can see, below the general fund category that are also pretty significant in terms of a large support to our general fund, which is our property, our special revenues, as well as the CDBG and housing. Those are the larger bars there that support the significance of the overall citywide budget. The next slide here provides you information regarding our general fund revenues by source, percentage, and amount. The general fund revenue budget is $129,100,432. This slide provides a glance of general fund revenues by source, as I mentioned, percentage and amount. For fiscal year '21, general fund revenues are $3.5 million, or 2.86 more than fiscal year 2020. The slight increase is largely due in part to property taxes, VLF, which is vehicle in lieu, and our new housing protection program revenues that are anticipated this year. Other revenues indicated there also make up approximately 22% of the general fund revenues of $129.1 million. Now, in terms of a revenue discussion, I'll be providing a brief overview of fiscal year '21 revenues for the following categories: for our sales and use tax, property tax, business license tax, TOT tax, which is our transit occupancy tax, card club license fees, and motor vehicle in lieu tax. Most of these taxes are specific in category because they are largely a large attributor to our general fund support. The first slide here represents our sales tax. Sales tax revenues are projected to be $17.3 million in fiscal year 2021, which is an increase of $1 million, or 5.5% from fiscal year, it's a decrease of $1 million, or 5.5% from fiscal year '20. The decrease is attributed to the anticipated performance of sales due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which could possibly change based on the outcome of the changes related to the government shutdown or future changes in relation to the shutdown. The next slide here represents our property tax chart, which gives you some history in terms of our property taxes as well. Property taxes are estimated to be $28.7 million, which is approximately $5.8 million or 79.4% higher than last fiscal year. Now, this increase is attributed to the pension override tax, which has been returned back to the city, providing an additional $4 million annually. And in addition, the city has also experienced a significant increase in our net taxable value increase, not only citywide, but also within our general fund areas. The business license tax are projected to be $7.5 million for fiscal year 2021, which is $500,000 or 7.1% higher than the current fiscal year. The increase is attributed to the anticipated increase in business tax payments in Inglewood. There's been a significant growth in businesses, so the increase in terms of the payments have also increased as a result of that. Our TOT tax, as you can see, has had some fluctuation throughout the years. But this year, we're projecting to be $5.3 million for fiscal '21, which is $400,000 or 7% less than the current fiscal year. This is also a decrease attributed to the anticipated decline due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as stated before, which could possibly change depending on the outcome of the changes related to the government shutdown and the pandemic. Our card club license fees, unfortunately, they are actually resulting in the same impact. Our card club fees are projected to be reduced to $3 million, which is roughly half less than the current fiscal year of $6 million. Again, due to the anticipated performance related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our motor vehicle and lieu taxes on the greater side are showing taxes are estimated to be $13.3 million, which is approximately 1.16 or 9.6% higher than the current adopted budget. Oh, I'm sorry about that. That number is wrong. I'm sorry about that. That's a typo there. It's actually 3.3 million higher than the current fiscal year. And again, that's also attributed to the increases that are related to how the property and the motor vehicle and lieu are combined in terms of the receipts that we receive for the city. Now that concludes the revenue categories in terms of the budget for our revenues. We'll now move on to the fiscal year 2020-21 expenditure summaries. I'll give you pretty
Fiona,
much,
For one thing, could you go back to the other slide
yes.
and just explain to people what motor vehicle in lieu means?
What the motor vehicle
What
in lieu
the
means.
title means, motor vehicle in lieu tax.
It's the taxes that we receive as our share in relation to the taxes that are paid to the state for
Registration.
the registration
For
fees
vehicle
and all the vehicle
registrations.
registrations that are tied to the state that you pay. We receive a portion of that money back.
Okay, and that's, okay, I just want to make sure people
Yes,
understood that. Thank you.
yes. And which means there's been a significant rise in vehicle purchases and registrations,
Exactly.
which has resulted in us receiving that. And the reason why I combined it in the thought of the discussion of property is because the state collects both of those.
Exactly.
And when one grows, more likely the other one tends to grow for whatever reason. People like to buy houses and cars at the same time, I guess. Okay, so the fiscal year 2020-21 expenditure summaries. We'll start with the citywide expenditures. This slide shows the citywide expenditures by fund, grouped by type, and amount and percent, which are projected to be $288,692,078. As you can see, the general fund, the blue bar there, makes up 48%, or a little less than half of the citywide budget for fiscal year 2021. Other funds grouped by type that have a significant portion citywide as well would be our special revenues at 21%, which is $60.8 million. There's a combination there. When I say special revenues, it's our special revenues on your chart as well as the Measure IT. That makes up the $60.8 million. We have our enterprise funds at $46.9 million, which is 16.3%. That includes our sewer, sanitation, water, and parking. And then that other bar right between the purple bar next, that blue one, represents CDBG and housing at $24.4 million, which is 8.44%. All right. This slide shows the citywide expenditures by department, amount, and percent, which are projected to be, again, $288,692,078. This one shows you the expenditures proportioned by all the departments and the percents and the values related to their share. And again, police department has the greater share of the citywide at 24.7%. Again, that's at citywide. As you can see on this next coming slide, showing the same meaning in some sense, but broken down mostly by general fund. The general fund department expenditure shows at $138,892,651, now shows the police department being the largest blue bar there, pretty much receiving 49 to 50% of the overall general fund budget. So this slide provides a snapshot comparison of general fund revenues versus expenditures for the last 5 years, of which the current fiscal year 20 is a year-end estimate, as with fiscal year 21. Being a projection of estimated revenues and expenditures, if a deficit is actually realized, then general fund reserves will be used to balance the budget at such time. And I started with that just to give you the understanding that though it shows a significant amount compared to our prior years, these are still estimates, which time will not be realized until the end of the year. Now, looking back, needless to say, in fiscal year 15-16 as well as 16-17, we spent several millions in general fund one-times, which included things related in the past to our senior center, along with some of the street repairs and projects that we decided to perform.
So to be clear, Ms. Buchanan, these were knowing expenditures that the council made that they decided they would do in that fiscal year, and they decided they would spend reserved money for these one-time projects that the council deemed were important. It wasn't that they were unanticipated or unplanned, but the reality is that that's what we chose to use reserves to do.
That
to
is
complete the
correct.
senior center, to do things like that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Now, our capital improvement projects. This graph pretty much shows the projected projects to be at $46.7 million for fiscal year 21. This slide provides a snapshot of the CIPs by funding source. Excuse them for being so small, but we have several funding sources in support of our projects for fiscal year 2021. The larger triangular portion portions are supported by the special revenue category funds, which is the blue bar, as well as the opposite side being, I'm sorry, the green bar, as well as the opposite side being the light blue bar. The green bar is mostly for state and county-related street and transportation funds. And the other medium triangular bar on the opposite side is used for our landside access modernization program, which are the funds that will be used to support the intelligent transportation system improvements and upgrades. There are currently no general fund projects appropriated at this time, at which time the city will come back with the summarized group of general fund projects and amend the budget as we deem or seem necessary, with the use of one-time expenses as we choose to at that time. The next slide here provides you just some information to show the categories of the CIPs that we've developed for this year, which there's a total of 48 projects, which are all itemized by the categories listed here. So we have 20 projects for streets and roadways. We have 7 projects for street lighting and roadway safety, 5 projects for our water system improvement. We have 4 projects for facilities, 4 projects for our transit stop improvements. There are 2 projects for the stormwater system improvement, as well as 2 projects for our sewer system improvement. We have right now 1 project for park and open spaces, 1 project for sidewalk and walkways, not to mention that there will not be any other sidewalk and walkways included in some of the street and roadway projects. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. As well as 1 project for public safety and 1 project for our ADA construction. And though they might say 1, that does not mean that there aren't multiple activities that will go into that 1 particular project as well. And I believe that concludes the presentation.
All right, are there any council questions or comments?
Comment, Mayor?
Councilman Franklin, District 4.
Yes, I just want to thank you very much for a great presentation. And they say the devil's in the details. And particularly, I want to stress the fact that this city, although we are using some of our our reserve funds unencumbered, it bestows upon this council to recognize that we've already budgeted at least $1 million loss in sales tax, over $400,000 in bed tax or transit occupational tax, and then $3 million that we normally receive from the card club, which is still closed to this day. And those are additional revenues that we would have normally received, and we're going to continue to suffer a loss in those revenues until such time that the COVID-19 epidemic has been lifted from the city. So I want to stress the fact that when we're raising this issue about where's the money, people are not traveling. So they're not traveling, that means they're staying at home, which means they're not eating out, they're not dining, they're not updating with their new clothes, et cetera. So we have to be cognizant of, as council members, that we have to ride this wave until such time that we're able to blossom to the point of neutrality. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any other council questions or comments?
No,
Go ahead, Councilman.
just want to make a comment, because we've had discussions, and I've had discussions with some staff and even out in the community, how are we going to be impacted by this COVID-19? When this thing kicked off back in February, March, and then we did the lockdowns and all that, we had to do some really serious, soul searching on how these impacts of COVID-19, to reiterate what Councilman Franklin said, with folks staying at home and not working and spending money, we're seeing the realities of it. Yet, I can tell you, because of the hard work of all our staff, the folks up here on the dais, the city manager, we have planned for these rainy days. And we're sitting better than most cities. Cities that before this COVID, a lot of folks thought they would never see anything that would hurt their economy, and yet they have been, hit hard, like many of our cities. I say that to say this. We gotta continue to, keep our foot on the gas as it relates to looking at best practices to continue to save money. The mayor mentioned the pension obligation fund. That was a great strategy. $8 million savings. Check that out. $8 million savings. Yet, we had one of our own people say that was, what was wrong with us, right? You can't do that and make $8 million savings without having some folks up here and our staff that understand the importance of these obligation funds. But I will say this. It's not over. We're gonna continue to stay focused and be fiscally responsible. That's what you have us up here to do, and we're gonna continue to do that. I wanna thank staff for putting this presentation together. The book that we took home to read, I was telling the city manager, I sat there with a headache, because, you gotta understand all these numbers. But it was very well done, and I appreciate all the work and effort that went into it. So with that, thank you.
Councilman Morel?
Thank you, and just, more of the same. I mean, I'm looking at, the numbers from last year and comparing them to this year. The truth is, we spent $10 million of our reserves last year, to make it at 9.8 this year. These are things that obviously, are good in a sense that we're prepared for these type of situations, but also the fact that so much is happening and everybody in this room kind of understands what we're talking about and has been part of the decision-making and the process. So this is, a lot of our comments are for the public because we know that the public is watching and looking around and thinking, money must be pouring in because we have all of these great developments, we have all of these great businesses pouring in, and the money must exist. And how could they be saying that? So a lot of it is clarity. A lot of it is clarity in terms of, we were just talking a few moments ago, we would have already seen a few games and maybe we would have seen what the momentum would bring, but we're not there yet. So the one thing, and the mayor has heard me say it this way, the one thing we've been responsible not to spend our future. Many people, many folks in our situation would have seen the future and would have planned it that way with a certain expectation. But I'll give credit to staff here, the council here, the mayor, who really, we stayed the course while our success was going. And I'll say it that way because we have had these discussions about how we're gonna do it. And as success came, we kept the same course. We stayed the course that we had planned out. And I believe that really is paying off right now. That being said, obviously it's a well-done report. I really wanna thank staff. Artie, always a good explanation you give us in private and out here. And the truth is that we are in a better shape than most right now in terms of the COVID and everything else. And we should really acknowledge the fact that we did it as a group and it was well thought out. We may not get credit for it, we never do, but that's the truth. So that being said, I look forward to the process that brings us to approving our budget this year, and with the understanding that it's a living document and we change it as we go along. So that's pretty much it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Dodson?
That's the problem for going last. Everybody had said what I need to be saying.
Take
but-
all the oxygen out of the room.
Anyway, everything that my colleagues have said is the truth, and I have to really thank our city manager and fiscal department, because the finance has done a great job with this budget this year. This was not easy because of the virus that we're fighting, but they came up with some really good figures for us. And I really want people to realize how we must have figured this out, or the staff figured it out, because we are now not laying off anybody, we're not furloughing anybody. That's not true in most other cities. So that to me is a plus for this city and this council. With that, I want to thank the staff for such a wonderful and easy read. A lot of it, but it was very easy to kind of get through it. And thank you so much for your work. And that's it, Mayor.
Okay, I want to echo what the rest of the council said, but I'm going to have to disagree with you on this point, Councilman Dotson. The staff didn't have to figure it out. Figuring out is when you have a shortfall and they figure out what you're going to cut. Figuring out is how you figure out how you're going to do layoffs. Figuring it out is figuring out how you're going to do furloughs. That's figuring it out. Mm-hmm. The figuring it out occurred year by year by the city council in how we saved money year by year, making hard decisions, smart decisions to increase our general fund revenues so that when we come to a rainy day, we were about 10 million short because of the COVID problem this last fiscal, and we project another 9.8 million to be short this coming fiscal. This 10 million, had we not done the bond refinance, would have been 18 million. That was a smart, bold move to do a debt swap, even though the treasurer criticized it.
And other cities followed suit.
And other cities soon followed suit and copied what we did. We had estimated for the first full year of revenues from the stadium that we would garner $18 million in additional revenues. Right. But to put what Councilman Morales said another way, we didn't count our chickens before they hatched. We kept money in the bank. And because of that, we can continue to operate the city in a stable, non-panicking manner. And that's why it's important that the people that oversee the city's funds are on the same page.
Yep.
The cohesiveness of the council, I will tell you this, staff does an excellent job of counting our eggs, okay? She does an excellent job. They all do. Sharon, David, Kiona, they do an excellent job of keeping track of the money. But the big decisions were made years ago. And I want to thank the council for their foresight. So that being said, you know, we're ready to go and burn probably about 20 million in reserves, and that's going to, depending on where we are, leave us between 30, 34 million in the bank. That's still 3 times what we had when I took office in 2011, and that's with 2 years, worst case, impacts from the pandemic.
And that's unencumbered funds.
Exactly, that's unencumbered funds. So I definitely want to thank the staff for the job they're doing, but I want to thank the council for having the fiscal austerity, courage, and foresight to bring us where we are today. Thank you. With that, is there a motion?
Well, just provide direction to staff.
So
Not tonight.
the only thing we could say is
It's
carry
just
on.
proposal, yeah.
Move forward.
Okay, DR2.
Staff report recommending approval of an agreement with the 715 Marlborough Apartments LLC to be recorded affecting real property with affordable housing agreement, density bonus for incorporation of 2 very low income studio affordable units in development in exchange for certain development incentives pursuant to the density bonus ordinance and the density bonus law for the certain apartment buildings located at 715 Marlborough Avenue, Inglewood, California, 90302, restricting occupancy of units 11 and 12 to very low-income housing at affordable rents.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. SPH 1.
Staff report requesting that a public hearing be set to consider an appeal of the Planning Commission for special use permit number 2019-014 to allow the sales of beer and wine for off-site consumption from an existing convenience store located at 400 West Manchester Boulevard.
Set the public hearing for October 6, 2020 at 2 p.m. SPH 2.
Staff report requesting that a public hearing be set to consider amendments to the Inglewood Municipal Code, Chapter 8 and 12, including zoning code amendments 2018-01, to establish short-term rental regulations.
Set the public hearing for October 6, 2020 at 2 p.m. 01.
Staff report recommending adoption of an ordinance number 20-16, amending the Inglewood Municipal Code for the reassignments of city duties.
Motion to waive further reading.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye.
I move to adopt the ordinance.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. A1.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a closed session regarding department groups. First one was IPOA, second was IPMA, the third bargaining group negotiation was SEIU. As to that, a status on the negotiation provided to the city council and direction given to staff. As to A2, there's no oral report from the city attorney's office.
CM1.
There are no oral reports from the city manager's office.
CC1.
No reports, thank you, Mayor.
CI1.
Emergency ordinance of the Inglewood City Council authorizing licensed card clubs to operate doors in accordance with state, county, and city COVID-19 public health, safety, and welfare regulations.
Move items 1 and 2.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. We're at public comments for 1 minute. Any persons wishing to address the city council on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered on the agenda may do so at this time. Operator, are there any callers?
Once again, dialing #2 will indicate that you wish to make a public comment. We do have a caller here on the line. Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead and state your name and comment.
Gil Matthew, District 4, Mayor and City Council. On the public comments area, question, not allowing public to give any questions on the city budget. And also, you should give an oral report on that Marlboro property. And 3, I think this council, on balance, is not setting priorities of the city. Now, you have the chorus, I understand, it's different. But we still need 7 p.m. meetings. And I don't know how you're going to compare the county and board of supervisors. That's over 1 million people. Now, all over the South Bay, everybody have 7 p.m. meetings to involve the community. But you want to shut people out. They do not know what's going on. They are not in.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew. Operator, are there any other callers?
Caller, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead and state your name and comment.
Hi, this is Carla. I'm also a resident of Inglewood, and I would like to request for you guys to have meetings in the evening so that there are more participants who have views and want to share them with you.
All right, thank you. Operator, any more callers?
There are no more callers in the queue.
All right, thank you. Council comments. Councilman Dodson?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to let everybody know that True Friendship Missionary Baptist Church at 79th and Van Ness is still serving from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. or until their allotment of food runs out. I also want to thank Don Harris Benton and Republic Service, who without their help, the shredding events that I do annually, semi-annually, would not be possible. So the big truck, it's all sponsored by them. So thank you so very much for helping out. And once again, thanks to the staff and this council for this great budget.
Thank you. Councilman Padilla, District 2.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to rehash all the stuff about the budget,
Go ahead.
but let me tell you, we're doing much better than a lot of other cities. And again, you know, my hat's off to all our staff, all our employees, where the rubber meets the road. The work that you're doing every single day is very much appreciated. And I also want to thank the community for their support. When we come to the community for help and assistance, they always come through for us. And so that means a lot. And that's what's helped us get to where we're headed. You know, we got to continue to move forward, continue to be creative, and continue to put Inglewood on the map for all the right reasons. So I want to thank everybody for all their work on putting this budget together. It really makes a lot of sense. Mayor, I'll ask that you please close in recognition and in the memory of U.S. Air Force Major and Tuskegee Airman Levi H. Thornhill, passed away last week. His grandfather was one of the Buffalo Soldiers, and Mr. Thornhill was one of the Tuskegee Airmen that was interviewed for the movie Red Tails. If you ever went to any of the Tuskegee events we've had here in Inglewood, Mr. Thornhill always made his presence known. He was full of excitement, and I am blessed and you know, to have met him, and you know, may he rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Franklin, District 4.
Yes, I too would be remiss if I didn't thank the staff for following the council's guidance and leadership on where we want to move the city forward on sustaining a quality of life, but more importantly, to make sure that we are staying afloat, that we're making ends meet with the loss of the Forum and all the concerts that have no longer come in existence, our inability to be able to have not one but two NFL football games, which the bodies would have been filling the seats, the concession stands, the parking fees that you'd be paying, the amount of gas you'd be putting in your cars. It's all not there as of yet. But we envision that it's going to grow. But with the budget that we presented, it's with the anticipation that here's where we are now. And as long as we continue to do our due diligence and safeguard what we currently have, we can see that there's an opportunity to be able to go back into the black and have additional reserve funds be made available in our budget. So thanks to the staff of literally being the bean counters and dotting the i's and crossing the t's. I personally want to thank Mr. Lewis Atwell and his staff for the capital improvement projects that we have throughout the city. It clearly has identified that we are, in fact, the jewel of the South Bay, and that it's our continuity on the council and the continuity with the staff, that we have a win-win situation for our community and those come to visit. On that note, everyone stay healthy and be safe. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Morales, District 3.
More of the same. The bottom line is that based on the environment that we're in, the COVID impact, and all of the things that have happened this year, we're in the best place we could be. I mean, having made the decisions, the mayor said it's been a kind of a chain of good decisions, and it has been. We could go back to the water rate hike, the getting rid of the unfunded liabilities, which were all very tough decisions. You know, those are things, the very painful layoffs we had that one year, those are things that really, really helped us. And the truth is that we're only just beginning kind of the move that the city is making. And I anticipate we will have some difficult decisions in the future, but we have to be prepared to make them. There are cities that are suffering a lot more than we are. And I wouldn't even categorize what we're doing as suffering as compared to some. There will be some layoffs. There's also been a very emotional kind of social impact that has happened this year, that we see police departments taking the brunt of some very unreasonable decisions, and they won't be able to turn back on that. So those are things that we continue to kind of look at, and I have to tell you, in terms of the impact we felt here, having been here as long as both Ralph and I have been here, we've had worse years than this, and there had been no pandemic before. So I can tell you that having seen the impact that it has on our budget, we have overcome that, and we're in much better shape now. And I don't mean to minimize the impact. What I mean is to give the perspective of where we are as a city. So that being said, Mayor, that's all I got. Thank you.
Again, to put it in perspective, if this was 2011, we would be bankrupt. We had 10 million in the bank, we'd be bankrupt. There wouldn't be any questions about it. We'd be laying people off, and the rest of us would have furloughs. I need to say this for the employees, for the residents. We have residents that actually believe that we have money coming in from the stadium. And the reality is, we don't have one dime coming in from the stadium. We will receive ticket tax. When the property taxes are collected, we'll receive some property tax revenue. But there'll be no parking taxes. There'll be no concession taxes. So the fact that we were prepared to go through this year without this money bodes very well for the city. So even in ordinary situations, if we did not have the level of money that we have saved, we would have to prudently consider layoffs or furloughs, because you can only go so low before you're in danger. And so, again, I can't stress how important that debt swap was for this time. Even though we didn't even know this time was coming, it was very important. And so I want to tell the residents that this is not, this is just prosperity delayed. It's not prosperity denied. And we'll see how things go going forward. And I want to close the meeting in the honor of Major Levi H. Thornhill, noted by Councilman Padilla. And I want to take care of some definitely unfinished business, close in the memory of Nida Charlene Fields, the niece of Artie Fields. She passed on August 26th, and she was just 12 years old. And we're adjourned.